Kayak Anglers of the Internet. Welcome back to the Advanced Kayak Angler podcast with myself, Dan Perry, and my co-host, Kurt Smitty Smith. What's up, man?
How you doing, man? How you doing?
Doing good. I'm on the phone again. I forgot my freaking laptop at work. It's all
right. Your phone does a good job, though.
Yeah, I'm always so ready to get out of there. Like I had a big old Apple and it was great and it lasted for so long, and now I have my work laptop, so it's not worth buying another computer just for, kicking around the house, have iPads and all that. But yeah, not enough complaints about that. My terrible podcasting. But yeah. So what you been up to, man?
Man, I went out on the river the other day and just smashed some smallies.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, it was one of those days where I was like, about halfway through the time, I didn't have the whole day, I had like half a day. So about halfway through my time, I'm like, today's going to suck. Today, because I'm throwing everything and I'm like, I'm not getting bit. And finally, I'm like, let me put this chartreuse and, green worm on. And as soon as I put that on, I mean, like the first cast was a 20-incher. Just like boom, and it just didn't stop for like the next hour with that one bait. And it was it was one of those days where they were so fixated on one specific color that no matter what else I threw, they just didn't. Because I threw the exact same worm in a white and green, and they wanted nothing to do with it in the exact same spot.
Huh.
It was just weird. But that's why I like fishing, because days like that.
It seems like most of the times it's the bait or the presentation, but every now and then it's like one color. And they I remember like 2 times in my life where I was throwing a rattle. This is like 2008 with my father-in-law throwing a red-eyed shad right, not long after they came out. He was throwing one with red on it, the same exact one, except his had red and mine didn't. And it made all the difference. He was catching them 2 to 3 to 1. And another time on one lake down from that, both on the Coosa River, I was throwing a green pumpkin blue jig, and my buddy was throwing green pumpkin orange, and he was catching them 2 or 3 to 1. I swapped over to that and started catching as many as he did. Sometimes color really is the deal, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always the determining factor, but that day it was, because I was literally thrown to the exact same spots, making the exact same cast. I literally took one off, put the other one on, threw right back in, boom, threw right back in the next spot, boom, and it was just. So I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, good day, and the weather's been great. So.
Yeah. I mean, we're about to go back into the 90s, but I mean, like today was beautiful. Yesterday, I mean, like the past 3-4 days have just been amazing.
A short little reprieve from the heat, but
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, tonight we're talking about a fun topic. We're talking about cheaters, dang old dirty cheaters. And guest for us tonight, we got Josh Boothe from the All American Kayak Series. How you doing, Josh?
Good, Dan. Thanks for having me on. Good to see you again, Smitty. I think the last time I saw you, you got a bag of Cheetos dumped on your head.
Oh, that wasn't me. That was Dwayne, man.
Oh, it was Dwayne Tapp.
That was Dwayne. I was there. I was like about 10 feet away from him when that happened, but that was Dwayne.
That was funny. That was hilarious.
So if people don't know, man, tell everybody who you are.
My name is Joshua Boothe. I run the Moyak Fishing Series in Missouri. I'm also the All American Kayak Series tournament director, which is a kind of a Midwest regional series here kind of between the Rockies and the Mississippi River. So I do that pretty much full time now. I don't get to compete as much as I used to, so I need to work on that, I guess. But
so that's about it. Wait a minute. You're doing full time. You're doing the All American.
Yes.
Hell yeah, man! Right on, brother. Right on. Congratulations. That's a big statement. I feel like
it's a lot of work. That's for sure. We've been trying to grow it, so it's been slowly kind of hanging in there, and hopefully we can keep making it a good deal. We got a great group of core anglers that love to travel and compete on these great lakes here in the Midwest that kind of get skipped over by some of the other bigger series. So hopefully we can keep up with that momentum.
I've been watching you guys grow and seeing the good things you've been doing, and it's like there's now 3 trails that I look at, and you are one of them. And
I really appreciate that.
And I look at the national stuff, and it's like it's all I kind of pay attention to anymore. And that's, so it's awesome. Thank you, by the way.
While we're at it, if people don't know, tell them about the All-American Kayak Series.
Yeah, the All-American Kayak Series. Like I said, we're a Midwest regional group. We do 2-day tournaments, run a 6-tournament series and a championship. We do a kind of a different format where we it's best 10 fish total, regardless of whether you catch them on day 1 or day 2. So that's kind of a little bit different. And we end a little bit earlier on day 2, so on Sunday. So guys got a little bit more time to, make it to the awards without having to rush home. So that's been working out really well this year. That we have tournaments from, Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin,
Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, we went to Kentucky Lake this year. And we dip down into Texas every once in a while. So try to stay kind of spread out here and just basically cover some really good lakes that don't get a lot of national attention from, the other big series like Kurt mentioned, the Hobie and Bassmaster.
Hey, can I ask you a quick question? I did not realize, and this is my ignorance, you do the 10 best fish. So you're entering all your fish then every day.
Yep, there's no sandbagging, so whatever you catch on day 1, you have to submit on day 1. But we just had our event up at La Crosse, and man, those guys nailed them. The guy that won it, he culled 25 times. He had his 10 fish limit on day 1. And the cool thing about this format is you're not out of it. On the standard format, 5 fish per day, you skunk on day 1, you're pretty much giving up. You might go after the big bass pot. You may just go home, but with this style of a format, you're not out of it. You could still go out there and have a great day 2 and catch right back up to everybody else. Or, if you had a good score on day 1, you can go out and try to cull a few fish on day 2, or maybe just sleep in and take it easy, and just let your score ride. So we've had a lot of positive feedback on this new type of format.
I like it. Lay the hammer down on day 1 and get drunk.
That's another thing. Another thing I've heard from anglers too is they don't have to worry about wearing out their spot. If they get on them, they just run that sucker to the ground and catch every fish they can there, because it's all going to count. So that changes your strategy a little bit.
Completely changes your strategy, man.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were supposed to talk about cheating, but man, I honestly did not know that about your tournament series. I kind of wish I would have known that. I'm surprised I haven't heard anything about that before.
Yeah, I'm not really too good at marketing and promoting, so that's kind of been our downfall. I'm not one of those people that always wants to be talking and be seen. So that's been kind of a downfall. Actually, I take the blame for that. We don't.
That's not a downfall, man. I mean, it's just I want to get that. I want to get that out there so people know, because this is something that's interesting. Because just what you said, man. So there's a lot of people that I hear that kind of gripe about the 2-day tournaments because they have to manage their spots and they're not used to it, or they're not comfortable doing that. They don't know when to stop and when to and with yours, man,
just go fish.
Just go fish, man. If you're busting big ones, just keep busting them.
Mm-hmm.
God, I like that, man.
I like you can leave early on day 2 as well. I mean,
that's what we're trying to.
Yeah, it's like a working man's trail,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been trying to adjust every year to try and accommodate the anglers, and that was like what Kurt mentioned. Sometimes on day 2 you're wore out, you want to go home, or either way, if you get done a little bit early, we usually stop at noon or 12:30 on day 2, but on day 1 we usually run about 9, maybe 10 hours depending on the event. So the total time is about the same. You just end a little bit earlier on day 2, so you can, hopefully that just allows people to get time to come to the awards, because we want them to come to the awards and get their pictures taken and have a good time.
And you can still, even if you have a 6 or 8 hour drive, still it's still possible to get home.
Yeah, because last year we went with a Friday Saturday format. And, some guys loved that because then they had Sunday to drive home but some guys hated it because then they had to take an extra day off, for vacation to come in earlier. So this was our attempt at a compromise, keeping it a Saturday, Sunday style tournament, but having the ability for guys to have a little bit more time to get home on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, what? How much is it? How much are the entry fees?
$200.
Okay.
So pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's not as high as the others, but we our payouts are just as good. We pay out real well, comparatively, because we don't have a lot of hands in the bucket, to say there's the money just goes right back to the anglers.
I like it. And just like you were said just a minute ago, that leaving early. I'm someone who, there's been a lot of tournaments that I have to come back, like regardless of where they're at in the country. I have something going on Monday, so I'm driving till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and man, that having an extra couple hours to get home would be nice. Instead of getting home at 2 in the morning, midnight seems a lot better, or 10 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that it? Is Ohio considered the Midwest? I guess, right?
I would consider it the Midwest for sure.
In social studies, it was.
Right? No kidding. All that area is, but I don't know. Every time we try to expand a little bit, it just doesn't work out. So I just try to stay in my own lane and stay here, in this area. So it seems to be working out better. There's just so many tournament series everywhere, all over the country anymore. The market is really saturated with tournaments, so it makes it really difficult to try to get new stuff out there and come up with it, because there's only so many weekends in a month. And if you've got Hobie and Bassmaster, that's 2 weekends right there, and then say a holiday, and then another set, your local club. That's it. There's only 4 Saturdays, so it's scheduling can be difficult too.
The Kayak Adventure Series now too for the river.
Yeah. I worked with Drew with Moyak on our last event we did together at Poplar Bluff, and that is an amazing series. The Kayak Adventure Series is really going to take off. I think I look forward. I want to start competing in it next year as well too. So I think that's going to fill a big void. Takes a little bit of pressure off of me. Honestly, we may have fewer events next year just because the Kayak Adventure Series is going to be pretty successful.
Yeah, and I know there's some guys here locally, friends of mine, that's what they go fishing now, and they've been getting trophies every tournament. Because here that's what they do, and they're able to go there, and the rules are a little more favorable to them. So they've been killing it out there. So
yeah, and they run kind of a similar style format that I have with the All-Americans. They have a best 5 fished, but you have 2 days to go catch your 5 fish. So you can catch your 5 fish on day 1 or day 2, or a combo of both. But it's kind of a similar style, and it seems to be a really fun thing. And we're actually going to be working with Drew on our first opening tournament next year. We're going to double up with them, the All-American and the Kayak Adventure Series, on Bodark down in Texas. And I think we're gonna be like one of the first kayak tournaments on that lake, I believe.
Yeah, but is that new one?
The new one they just opened up down there with the bigs.
Man, I love hearing about new water. I love Gunnersville and Chick and stuff, but man, when you get to go fish someplace new, that gets me excited.
It is fun. I love breaking down a new lake, exploring it for the first time, and we try to do that with the All-American Series too, just kind of bounce around and not always be on the exact same lakes. And also, we're not going to go to just a lake that's going to pay us to be there either. We're going to go to where the fishing is good and at the right time of the year, so that I always try just to make sure that the guys catch the most amount of fish when I'm making the schedule. And that's pretty much the main factor in the dates. So we just try to go to the best lakes at the best times, and it usually works out pretty good.
So you're not even trying to balance it with like getting paid. You're just going to the best places that you think.
Exactly. Yeah. I really am.
I like that. That's awesome.
Is there anything else people should know about the All-American Series?
Do
the Classic, right?
Yes, the Classic. That's basically it's a separate event, really, kind of unrelated. The series was kind of born off of the success the Classic was having. The All-American Kayak Classic is held on Truman Lake every year in Clinton, Missouri. It's sponsored by Everhart's Outdoor Store, a really, really big, nice outdoor store. You can have from guns to fishing, everything you can think of. But It is basically a team championship, club versus club. You can see behind me, Moyak has won twice. We're the only club that's won twice the Midwest Regional Championships for clubs. So it is an individual tournament that is an invite only. Only the top 15 and AOI points from every club is invited. We've got probably, I think last year we had about 28 clubs that sent their anglers to compete. We've been averaging about 200 every year. Really looking to see us grow next year. I'm going to do a little bit more open qualifiers, but to get back to it, it's an individual tournament. First place is paid out $10,000 every year. We pay out deep, at least 20 spots in the field. Real good payouts. We give away kayak there, and then beside the individual side of the tournament, there is the club aspect. So what we do, Tyler Cole, he runs that with me. He's one of the tournament directors, and we calculate everybody's scores, and then we put your club score together, which is the best 5 anglers from your club. So at the end of the day, when all the scores are tallied, whoever had the highest scores in your club, the top 5 are combined and added together for a total. And then the club with that highest total wins the championship and another $5,000 and one of those pretty nice trophies back there. So that comes with a lot of bragging rights. That's been one of the more things that guys really get into. Arkansas and Missouri, we've been going back and forth. Iowa won it a year, and Colorado's coming strong. They won it. So there's a lot of smack talk that goes involved. The club versus club aspect is really fun. And I'm hoping we can draw in some more guys from, east of the Mississippi River and get some more of those clubs involved, because there's a lot of great clubs in Tennessee and Kentucky that aren't that far away. And so we'd like to really get them, everyone is invited. If you're a tournament director and you'd like to get involved or get more information, you can just send me an email at allamericanKayakSeries@gmail.com.
Cool. Yeah, I knew y'all had a great payout for sure. I've talked to my guys here for years trying to get them to go out there and do it, and we just never have been able to put it together yet.
It's a fun tournament because Truman Lake is you're not going to catch a double-digit bass, but it's a good lake to fish. It's huge. It has more shoreline, I think, than the state of California is what they say. It's a monstrous lake, so you've got plenty of room to spread out and fish, and lots of access points, and it's pretty centrally located in the country, so it's been working out pretty good. That's always going to be on the first weekend of May, so it's already locked in next year. I think May 2nd and 3rd.
Okay.
So.
Cool. Well, man, the topic of the night is cheating. How many cheaters have you had in Moyak and All-American? Do you have any good stories?
Fuck, I hope zero, but
Yeah.
before I came a tournament director, yeah, I got a story. We busted a guy. And I'm gonna blast him out too because I don't care. Nick Kruckenberg, he was an angler who was coming on strong in this area. He was back when the Midwest Kayak Fishing Series was going. I think 2018 maybe, 2009, somewhere in that area. But he was tying up fish. He was catching them in practice and tying them up, and he got caught several times. And
several times.
Yeah, it was suspicious, and some people were questioning some things. And he came down to fish one of our tournaments on Lake Taneycomo, and while he was pre-fishing, he caught like a 22-incher. And on Friday, he posted a picture on Facebook and said, "Check this fish out," and then put a picture. Well, it had some very specific marks on that fish. And the next day, he submitted that fish in the tournament. And he even had he thought he was like the new pro kayak angler. He had a cameraman following him around, and he thought he was hot stuff, and he was winning a lot. But I think it's because he was tying a lot of fish off. But we busted him, called him out. A lot of other clubs said, "Yeah, we've wondered this too." And then I think he even got caught with I can't remember the specifics, but it was at another tournament where they caught him actually snagging lines and shit that he had fish tied up. So we blasted him. He got ran off, and I haven't heard of him. He shut down his social media accounts, and we haven't heard from him since. But yeah, that's about the only time I really found someone deliberately cheating.
Snagging lines. So he had like a real system too. It wasn't just like
he was trying really hard not to cuss here, but this guy was a moron, and he thought that just winning was everything and getting that money. And just hopefully there's not that many.
Oh, you still there, Kurt?
I'm still here.
All right. Good. It's not me.
Well, you know, when you said the guy had a whole system, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, holy
Yeah, that's not
cow, man.
like put
This
them in
isn't.
a basket. That's like putting them on a line and then, God, that's like for real cheating.
Yeah. That's there's no mistaking the rule there.
Yeah, like he had really put a lot of effort into it and really thought about it and everything else. That's here. Let me bump him out here so we can get back in. Yeah, I don't know. That's like some serious cheating. And you know anybody that's well? I can say one. We had a guy here in Alabama. He was It's now been corrected. Yeah, I don't mean to throw any shade on the trail or anything because they're the best in the state. But there was a tournament director. Like the thing you don't want to happen was he was going back and looking at old tournaments and yeah, getting people spots. You know, I had him show.
And it was a tournament director doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I think he had been before, and then he wasn't for a while, and they let him come on to help him out. And you know, because they needed, you know, sometimes you need people scoring
need
fish.
some help. Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't revoke his access, so now there's like something in there where if you go back a tournament more than 10 days, it notifies a person whose stuff you're looking at. Like that's built in.
Really?
Yeah, it's built in Attorney X now.
That's good because there's let's just say there's been multiple cases of something like that happening, you know, which is a shame because
Yeah.
you know, every time there's a tournament director who abuses that, it puts shade on all the good tournament directors who also like to fish tournaments.
Yeah.
You know, who aren't looking up where everyone caught their fish, and you know, and I hate to hear stuff like that because it's like an abuse of power. I mean, because we trust these guys, and there's, you know, let's face it, even on the local tournaments anymore, man, everything it's a lot of money. You know, it's thousands of dollars. I mean, we're not talking hundreds of dollars, we're talking thousands of dollars now every weekend. You know, so I hate, you know,
And
yeah.
that there was I don't know if it was a tournament he had cheated on, but day one of it was like the Bill Lewis event, or no, day one was TVKA Steve Owens event. He showed up. I fished it, won that one, and saved fish for day two for the Bill Lewis Rattle Trap tournament, which was the next day. And then he launched somewhere different and was able, because I guess he had a smaller kayak. I don't remember. And he was able to beat me to that spot. Like
Oh,
on day two after I had saved fish, and he was able to beat me by like 100 yards. He was in front of me. I didn't have a motor then. I was just kicking as much as I could, trying to get there, trying to get in front of him. And he got the good side. He got like fourth. He was last in the money, and I was the first one out. Yeah. So I mean, you figure fourth and fifth got paid off that spot. It was enough to win that tournament too. So
yeah.
That hurt.
Oh, that burns, man. That burns. And that information's gold, man.
Yeah.
Even if you don't act on it immediately, right? You know when the big bite happened, you know where it happened.
Yeah.
Man, you can put together, especially on like all those people fishing the same lake, you can figure out a lake off of that, like where the morning bite is, where the afternoon bite is. I mean, it can.
Or just similar type stuff, even if you don't go there. Just kind of knowing, oh, this is what they're doing right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the kind of structure they're on, or whatever it is. But yeah, now they have that rule in Tourney X to prevent that. So I guess it happened, but something good came from it, a new rule. So that's good,
And that's what we need. I mean, we're a young sport, so there's going to be holes that have to be filled, you know, with the rules, that people will take advantage of stuff, you know. And another thing that I like is that we've gotten away from hog troughs.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
trough
I mean,
gate or
I personally don't have anything against the hog trough, but I mean, God, so many people were cutting them, putting them together. I mean, that like, how many
bending them.
times do you hear about that?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it happened in my local. It happened in the local trail that I used to fish here in Ohio. You know,
Somebody cut the board. Really?
yeah, he was cutting the board, man. He was cutting the board, and it was like all of a sudden one year, this guy just comes out of nowhere. He's just lighting everybody up, and I'm like, wow, this guy's really good. You know, he's catching big fish, and he was cutting his board. And I can't remember. I think that he might have actually had like 2 boards and then or 3 boards, 2 cut boards, and then one that wasn't. That's what it was. And he'd measure the same fish on all 3 and submit it and have 3 different length fish popped in.
There we go. Josh.
Sorry about that, guys. Internet.
No, man, technology, it happens.
Yeah.
So I had a story about Attorney X, a tournament director had cheated. Kurt was talking about boards, how, the old hog troughs, the bend them and cut them. I remember that one girl who had the great set of tits. I mean,
I think everybody remembers her. Too. I know. Well, that's all we remember about her, isn't it? Like, remember that one girl with the tits that cheated?
Oh,
it was so distracting. Like, how could you? Like, is there even a fish in this picture? Right?
that was in Arkansas, wasn't it? I think she got run off down to Texas, I think, and changed her name and everything.
Yeah,
really? Wow.
My guy who cheated, he moved to Kentucky.
Oh, poor Kentucky guys. Now they got another cheater down there.
Sorry. I feel, but these kind of people, it's like dude, I want to win as much as anybody else. I truly do, but I can't even get close to a rule break. Like, obviously intentionally, maybe one day I'll do something that maybe I didn't know it was a rule or something, but I can't get intentionally close to breaking a rule because I feel so bad. Like the sport, I love the sport and the people, and I'm so into it that it just, I can't even imagine, because everybody knows afterwards. Like I remember there was also the KFL guy. I forget his name. Red-haired guy in Texas, and he was doing really good. And then he was fishing in place, like, you had your home lake, and that was your lake that your team fished at. And he was fishing the out of bounds area, and then coming back in from the out of bounds and taking a picture, and then going back in and catching them. And that's how he was cheating.
Oh.
But dude, your family is going to find. I can't imagine my wife finding out or my kid that I cheated.
Yeah, that's why I hope there's not really a lot of those type of people out there, because you just got to be greedy and freaking evil, I guess. You don't give a shit about the sport, if you're doing anything like that, because if you care about the people in the sport, that's like what you said, man. It's hard to believe, really.
Just the risk,
Yeah, because you do it once, or you're done in this sport. You'll never compete again, and word travels real fast, and it's not even worth it. You're going to win $500 at a tournament, and then you'll just be banished for life and never be able to compete again. So that's stupid.
Or you just get that bad reputation, right? Like, no one can prove it, but people know. So you have like people, there's always this questioning looming over every time they do good,
and that never goes away either.
Never goes away. I honestly feel bad for those people. I feel like, there's something missing in their lives where they feel like they have to cheat. Because, one of the reasons I like to compete is because I want to go up against the best, and I want to go up against the best on their best days. I don't want to ever do well if, someone stumbles. I don't want to I always want it to be like head to head, knuckle to knuckle, and however it ends up. And then that's just, that's just how it is. And when you do well in those situations, it's a true victory, you know. And the guys who cheat, man, it's like they're not helping themselves. They're not helping anybody else.
Yeah.
I feel bad for them. I feel like there's like something missing in their like day-to-day lives that
could be on to something. It's like someone running a race against 7 other fast people. You take off running, then you start tripping everybody. And once everybody's knocked down to the ground, you cross the finish line and claim you're the fastest person around.
Yeah. And you're not.
No.
And you're not. I mean, and you're just not. You may have a prize, you may have a trophy, you know, a nice trophy or something. But
we had a fella here. He I mean, if you live anywhere near the Coosa River, everybody knows Lay Lake and the Beeswax Bait and Grocery. That's where a lot of classics have went out of beeswax. And there was the owner of Beeswax Bait and Grocery, a guy named James. I don't know if y'all listen to Paul Feinbaum show, but back in the day, Tammy, she died, but she used to be on the Paul Feinbaum show all the time, and she worked there at the Beeswax Bait and Grocery. And he was big in the tournaments. Had a Verado. This is back whenever I boat fished, but like the first person I ever saw that had a 4-stroke. I mean, big, nice boat, nice guy, and he fished all the tournaments. He got caught cheating. He had fish in his live well, but like if they did a live well check in the morning, I guess they usually didn't, and he already had the fish in his live well. He got destroyed. He couldn't fish a tournament in Alabama. He sold the store. Like he had to move. He couldn't even own his little gas station anymore. He had to move because nobody would go there.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. So, and right there, it just shows you like how desperate someone has to be to cheat, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why would you want to ruin your life over a couple $100? I don't
Or
get it.
1,000 or even tens of thousands. I mean,
even if it's $10,000, that's a lot of money, but still that's going to be gone in a heartbeat. That's a blink of the eye.
Yeah.
That's some groceries these days. It's a week's worth of food.
And kind of the thing, one of the things I want to talk about with this is the trails and what trails can do whenever somebody's like being a tournament director sometimes with my local trail, Iron City Kayak Anglers can fish, but they like you have to be consistent with the rules. Like even if it's a small like they a rule break where you're kind of is this fish allowed or whatever. Like you have to be consistent. You have to say no. I mean, you just have to draw a line and say, this is where the rule is. This is how it's going to be for every single person. And if you don't, it's like the line isn't really there for everybody. You have to have a line in the sand, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would say probably a lot of drama comes from tournament directors who don't have clearly defined rules, or they try to change the rules during the season, or there's gaps in the rules that don't address every type of scenario. I really feel like if you've got your rules just completely locked down, and you've thought of all these other weird things that could happen, and you've already prepared for it, then there shouldn't be any problems because it's all right there in the rules. So there's no room for interpreting things differently if you've got it worded correctly. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's tough, but I mean, sometimes you have to be an asshole and be like, hopefully it's a learning opportunity and you're like, this is why I can't accept this fish. I hope you understand you're the one putting me in a bad situation that, you need to know the rules. Everybody's responsible to know them. And I have to have a clear, this rule applies to everybody. And, it sucks to be put in that position, but, God bless the tournament directors because y'all have such a tough job.
The good tournament directors, man, all you guys, my hat's off to you because it's a really hard job. And because sometimes you have to recuse yourself from fishing certain tournaments.
Yeah.
I know several really good tournament directors that I really admire and respect them as people and respect them even more as tournament directors because I was talking to him like, hey man, let's go. We'll all go together. We'll get this house. We'll have a good time. We're friends, right? You know? And they're like, man, I've judged too many fish on that particular lake. I don't feel comfortable going and competing. He's like, even though I didn't, I haven't written anything down, I'm not trying to remember anything, but I feel like I just know too much to go. And those guys, they didn't make a Facebook post about it. It was just all behind the scenes. And, and those guys earned my respect for like life after that. I was just like, wow, man, that really says a lot about you as a person and as a tournament director to say, hey, I'm going to pull myself out. I'm not even going to allow myself to do this tournament because I may have information in my head that gives me an unfair advantage.
Yeah, for sure. Back in 2020 is when I decided I was just going to stop fishing altogether because of that right there. Somebody could say, well, you have inside information, or you judged this tournament, so now you have knowledge of where all the good spots are. And I just wanted to avoid all that because, I had my spots before I ever became a director, and that wasn't the case at all. When I'm judging, I usually don't even look at the map or anything. That's not really that. I know they're on the lake. That's all that matters. So I just skip that part. But it does kind of bug me when there's tournament directors out there that fish in their own tournaments. I'll admit it. If it's a smaller club, might not be that big of a deal, but it's not for me. I didn't feel right doing it, like what Kurt said. And, with the All-American, it's been kind of a double-edged sword because some of the tournaments are really cool and I really like this format and I want to fish them and I want to go there, but I can't. It's like I built something cool, but I can't play with my toy. So, but other than that, yeah, I don't agree with tournament directors fishing. I don't think it's right.
I can't agree with you more, man. There's been multiple times where I've been very uncomfortable in situations like that. And, and unfortunately too, man, it's those bad tournament directors that put shade on the good ones. So you can't maybe do some tournaments that you would want to do because you've judged on that lake or, you have some knowledge of it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, we have a guy, he runs the Yak and Grass. Shout out Joe Drowns. He works for Duckett, but he's a tournament director for Yak and Grass. It's a tournament trail just on Gunnersville, and he fishes his tournaments, but everybody knows he's going to fish a certain part of Mud Creek. Like every time he goes, it doesn't matter what your other, where everybody's fishing. Everybody knows he's going fishing Mud Creek. Gunnersville's that way though. You could just fit can fish one creek the whole year, and it's at some part of it's going to be good. But that's kind of how he's done it. I have a lot of respect for Joe and how he does that because it doesn't matter what other spots he sees on that lake. He's always going to fish his creek, and so that to me has been one way around it.
Yeah.
Where I feel like it's still. It's still kosher.
There's also plenty of other series out there too. Like I look forward to fishing some Bassmaster events, or even Hobie, or even like a neighboring clubs tournaments or something like that. There's other options if guys want to fish without having to fish their own events.
Yeah.
And there's also, I'm just going to throw this out there while we're rolling too, that there's some guys that bug me that I feel like they're just creating tournaments so that they can fish on their favorite lake in their backyard and get some people to sign up to donate some money so they can win. That aggravates the crap out of me.
Josh, I like you, man.
I like it. Spicy take. I like it.
Yeah, I'm a former Marine, so it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut. I usually say what's on my mind.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a good thing, honestly.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And there's a difference between people who are intentionally cheating and anglers that will look at the rules and try to maybe, I don't know how to say it.
Racing.
Yeah, like they cut the edge, right? You know what I mean? They look at the rules and they see, they're trying to do something that's a little different than everybody else. In some way, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody or saying anything, but there's a difference between those anglers who are still looking at the rules and trying to play by the rules you know, versus someone who looks at the rules is like, man, how can I break them and actually cheat?
Yeah, and that comes back to the tournament director having a good solid set of rules, you know, to where if a guy does find a gray area that's already been addressed and it won't cause any problems. Because I mean, as an angler, I would do the same thing. If there's like if it doesn't say I can't fish here, well, can I fish here? You know, if it's not specifically in the rules, then maybe it can give you an advantage and you're not cheating. I know, I agree. That's not cheating. That's why it's important for rules to be set and really clearly understood by everybody.
It is tough too, because it seems like the more mature our sport gets, the more I think this is just governments, organizations, just in general. Like the longer you go, the more rules there are going to be until like the people that fish a certain way are going to, just because how they fish, like the creek guys and Bassmaster or Hobie events, they kind of kept bumping up against the rules that the rules with launches and everything's kind of became so unfavorable for them that now they fish the kayak adventure series. That I mean, it's a way
boundaries
to where there's always more and more rules. You know, it's tough too that people, certain styles of fishing become more closer to the edge of the rules. You know.
Yeah, boundaries can get real tricky, and has caused problems in a lot of tournaments in the past. With the All-American, I feel like we've addressed that pretty well. We have a list of it's a boundary map. You got to launch from public access within that boundary area. But once you're launched, you can go anywhere you can get your kayak to without getting out of it. If you can go as far up a creek as you want, you just got to come back when you're done. But as long as you're not portaging, you can go anywhere you can paddle, float, pedal to. That's all open water. So there's really no boundaries on where you can fish. The boundaries are where you're launching it from. So that's worked out pretty good for us.
There's been some rules where scooching, like,
just about to ask that.
Yeah, scooching, like, you're not getting out of your kayak, but some of these guys have light kayaks and they're light and athletic and they're able to do things that my fat ass couldn't do. I'm not getting out there in my PA and going underneath log jams and doing all kind of things that I couldn't do. But I think that's also a skill. Like that's something that if you are more athletic and in better shape or lighter, because in other sports, somebody who's super tall has an advantage in basketball, and kayak fishing, sometimes somebody who's small has an advantage. I think
if you were going to go up skinny water like that too, I mean, having a lighter kayak, not having a big old motor on there, something you could throw and go would be more beneficial too. It's all part of the strategy, I guess, of pre-fishing and planning.
Yeah.
So can you scooch in the All-American?
As long as you don't get out, yeah.
As long as you don't get out, like you can use your paddle and like put and post it down and
Yep. It's even in the rules that you can pedal, paddle, power, or pole. So if you can get in there and scoot yourself, as long as you're still in the kayak and you're in the lake, and you can go for it.
It's really like Oblivion, like cross-country skiing. And up in your kayak with two poles.
It sucked to get stuck though.
Yeah. That's funny. But then any I know in pro fishing, like MLF has been a complete shit show with people cheating or rules not being applied. Last week there was somebody who didn't pass a polygraph because he got information and he failed the polygraph and then did one on his own and passed it. So it seems like there's just more and more rules infractions going on in the world.
Yeah, that's a negative thing too. We got too many rules and it makes it almost impossible to follow all of them, and it gets complicated and no fun.
I know. I'm with information, I'm always so worried, like don't tell me anything, but because I've never had to do a polygraph, I've just always felt like I would get in there and just, I'm not an anxious person, but if you hook me up to that stuff, I might I might freak out.
I'm a little anxious. It would freak me out, man.
Yeah.
Like never been hooked up before to a polygraph. I'm sure my heart would be like,
right.
Yeah. Like, oh, I stole that one thing in, like fourth grade at the grocery, you know, I stole that CD at Kmart in 1993. Ah, like, yeah.
So Josh, how do you handle that when someone comes up to you at the end of a tournament and says, "Man, I saw so and so doing X, Y, and Z," and I feel like he's cheating. What as a tournament director at a high level, high profile tournament, how do you handle that? What's like your thought process?
It really kind of depend on the situation. An example would be last year we had a tournament, and I got a report of some anglers that were fishing right next to a dam, and they were inside the buoy off limits marker, and supposedly they were fishing, out off limits. And they sent me a picture, and it was hard to tell. It looked like they were right on that buoy line. So, I made some phone calls. I called the district, the lake manager, and the conservation agent that was on patrol that day. And finally, I got a hold of somebody who was there and witnessed it. And they had told me that they had saw those guys and that the buoys had become loose from the last flood and it actually shifted a little bit. So they weren't quite in the right place, but those guys never crossed them anyway. And long story short, they didn't break any rules. And I had a witness, from, the Department of Conservation, so it was a reliable source. So, I mean, in situations like that, I guess you just got to break it down and try to investigate. But it can be hard because I've had some instances where some guys were like, this guy was fishing before the line's end time, and it's a blurry photograph, and they have no idea who the guy is. It's just some guy in a kayak. I don't even know if he's in the tournament. I don't know who he is. So there's not a lot I can do about that. So there's situations that come up like that to where I just feel like I need more. I guess my suggestion would be anglers, if they see or witness something, get more evidence, get something that can be used instead of, just
stuff he said, she said.
Yeah. Instead of just a statement, because that's a big accusation. And that's trying to disqualify someone from a tournament is a big decision. I hate it just denying a fish. I've been lucky. I haven't had that situation where I've ever had to kick somebody out for doing anything wrong like that. But it can get complicated pretty quick. Sometimes there's not a very easy answer. And then sometimes you can't get an answer because you just, like I said, you just don't know.
And it goes without saying, but some of it too is breaking rules that are unintentional and really knowing the rules and knowing what you're doing. Like a great example is I was at the Hobie this year, the first event down in Florida on Harris Chain. And for months, I had this idea of what I was going to do. I was going to go fish over the buoys at the spillway. I was going so far, nobody would be able to go there because they didn't have a battery big enough. But I made sure I did. And I was going to make this unbelievable run and be this hero and go fish a spillway. Well, the night before, they AJ messaged everybody and said, you can only fish up to the buoys. You can't fish at the buoys and then over. And that was like half my game plan, So, yeah. So really, really especially if you specifically know what you're going to be doing, really read over the rules. I know it goes without saying, but even, I've been fishing for so long and I could have unintentionally broken the rules. And, I would have, I can't imagine I would have went all the way to Florida and broke the rules unintentionally, had a big bag and then lost it and then looked like a cheater on top of it whenever it was unintentional. That would have really sucked. So, props to AJ for sending out that message before, but I should have asked, or I should have looked at the rules harder. So just playing dumb or just not being knowledgeable enough with the rules of what kind of water you're fishing still falls on the angler.
Yeah, but I also, making mistakes is different than intentionally cheating as well. Not anglers they should be responsible for knowing all the rules, but if you do something on accident, like a double submission on a fish. Sometimes your cell service ain't good or something, and that fish photo will go through real quick a couple times. Well, as a judge, you can see that timestamp, and it's the same fish, and it was just a double submission. So I just delete it, deny it, keep one, and move on. That angler didn't try to cheat. But if that same fish come across 45 minutes later with a different timestamp, it's the same fish. It's a different story. That's a different deal, totally different thing. So.
And I've fat fingered the number on a fish and made it like a 15 instead of a 14 and submit it.
Oh
and
man, that happens all the time.
Yeah, Steve Owens sent back and he's like, "Hey man, I'm changing this to this because it was wrong," and it was totally unintentional. I would, I'm not trying to get extra inches. If I lose, I lose. But
that happens all the time when I'm judging. I just correct it, and whether it's less or more, I just go ahead and fix it because. I know from being out on the water, sometimes you just can't see the glare from the sun. You can't really tell exactly. You got to zoom in on it. And sometimes, or you'll fat finger something, or it's no big deal for the judge to correct the score. I mean, that's
another great thing to hear that you do is that you're marking them up or down. I've heard some tournament directors who have said to me, I will only mark a fish down. If an angler submits something and he says it's 17, he fat fingers it and says it's a 17 instead of an 18. Well, it's on him.
Well, yeah, but that's like a punishment. Why do you want to punish an angler?
That's exactly. And so I really like hearing that you're marking them up too. AJ does the same thing. AJ's thing is, as a tournament director, your job is to make sure everything is accurate.
Exactly.
Whether it's up or down, his job is there to make sure it's accurate.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You want to make sure that the correct score is given for each photograph, whether it's more or less.
So I got to ask, man, and this doesn't have anything to do with cheating, man. What's the rule on crack mouths in All-American?
My rule is like the old school KBF rule. If it's a quarter of an inch more, it's a 1 inch penalty. So it can be cracked a little bit. And, there's some tricks I've learned over the years on how to measure that gap. Sometimes it gets, and it's like a judgment call. But if it's right on that quarter of an inch distance, I give it to the angler. So I stay consistent. I do it that way with everybody. So I've never had any problems with it. But yeah, it doesn't have to be completely sealed. And that's another thing that aggravates me about some tournament directors is, some lips don't even close all the way on a fish, and some of them have a little crack here, even when it's closed, and then they'll deny it or deduct that fish.
Or you get one picture and the mouth is barely cracked and that jumps off the board, and that was the only one you had.
I can't tell you how many times I've gotten dinged because you catch a fish and the mouth is mutilated a little bit and it just won't close. I'll pushing it up against the board. I'll have my board up so its face is smashing against it, and you're pushing on it, trying to get it to close, and it just, yeah.
You can tell when you're judging if that mouth is cracked and it's giving an advantage to the length of where the tail is laying at and the way the fish. I've judged lots of fish, and it's pretty easy to tell. And that distance, I do it just to for like what you said, Kurt. Some fish just won't shut their mouths all the way or can't. Or sometimes there's just that little bit of a crack in there. So I'm not going to penalize an angler for that. If it's obviously over a quarter of an inch, then yeah, I'm going to deduct it an inch. But that's how we do it.
All right. Well, what is that in your fish tank? Is that an eel or something? I've been looking at it the whole time.
That stick in the middle. That's just wood. That's like an old tree root, like a tree root I found of driftwood I stuck in there.
I've been trying to figure that out the whole time.
I got a crab in there. That crab, he likes to climb up it to the top and get some air. So that's his little ladder.
Oh, salt water then?
Yeah, it's a brackish water tank.
Okay, cool. Huh.
Yeah, we've got tanks all over the house. We're kind of nuts about it.
Do you see? I'm too lazy. Or I'd love to have fish tanks.
It's pretty relaxing.
Yeah, I believe it. So, all right, man. We talked about cheating enough. People cheat. Know the rules. Don't be a cheater.
Cheaters suck.
Yes, they do, and they don't last long either.
Yeah, you're going to be found out eventually, and then everybody's going to hate you, and you might get stabbed. So, and
yeah.
you might go to jail in Alabama. It's a felony. So, yeah, don't cheat.
Don't cheat.
All right. So, where can everybody find the All American Kayak Series? And what do you have any events left?
Yeah, we have one more event left. We're heading to Lake Ouachita in Arkansas, the first weekend of September, and then we'll have our championship on Table Rock the first week of October. But we're about to wrap things up for the year. So if anybody's interested in that, allamericankayakseries.com.
Sorry, how do you qualify for the championship?
The All-American Championship is an open championship. Anyone can fish it. The thing is that makes it a little different is the top 25 and Angler of the Year points for the AAKS, they get in for free. We hold a little bit of money back each year from each tournament, and so we build up the pot, and so those guys all get in for free. So it's about a $5,000 pot so far, and 25 guys get in for free. It'll be fun.
Cool.
But
anyone sorry, I interrupted you. Where can people find you?
allamericankayakseries.com.
My man's got a website. All right. I like it. All right. Well, we appreciate you being on. Cheaters don't cheat. Nobody likes a cheater. And
nope.
Yeah, appreciate y'all listening. We'll see y'all again on the next one.
Thanks, Josh.
See you guys.